Imagine for a moment that the world is vast, chaotic, and relentless, moving with a force that often feels beyond your control. In such a world, it is easy to be distracted by the opinions of others, by the endless noise, by the endless pursuit of what seems urgent but carries little meaning. Yet, there exists a quiet power, a source of strength that is entirely yours, unclaimed by anyone else. This power is found in the act of turning your attention inward, not out of selfishness, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. For it is only when you understand yourself, when you examine your thoughts, your impulses, and your desires, that you begin to cultivate a resilience that no circumstance can undo. To focus on yourself is not to escape the world, it is to prepare yourself to meet it. Every day, life will attempt to scatter your energy, pulling you toward distractions, toward fears, toward the judgments of others. But each moment spent observing your own mind, each moment spent refining your character, is a moment where you claim authority over your own life. The mind, once trained, becomes a fortress, and within its walls, peace and clarity take root. You begin to see that the world does not dictate your happiness, you do. The more attention you give to the cultivation of your own mind and spirit, the less susceptible you become to the chaos around you. Strength in its truest form is not measured by what you accumulate or by how others perceive you. It is measured by how steadfast you are in your own understanding, by how unwavering your attention can remain when the storms of life rise. There is a serenity that comes from knowing that no one can disturb the inner workings of your mind without your consent. And this serenity is earned through the deliberate act of focusing on yourself, through the constant practice of self-examination, through the patient effort of untangling the impulses that lead you astray from reason. So consider this: the more you turn your gaze inward, the more you nurture your own wisdom, the more capable you become of facing the world not with fear, but with presence. Each day offers countless moments where your attention can be scattered, but each day also offers a choice, the choice to cultivate your inner strength, to align your actions with your values, to listen to your own mind before listening to the noise outside. It is in these choices, repeated with deliberate patience, that the true power of a focused life reveals itself. You will discover that focusing on yourself is not a withdrawal from life. It is the preparation to live fully, to act clearly, and to face every challenge with measured calm. The storms will come, opinions will clash, events will unfold in ways you cannot control. But the person who has learned to focus inward, who has disciplined their mind and nurtured their own inner fortitude, will meet each moment not with panic, but with clarity, not with reaction, but with reflection. And in that clarity, in that quiet strength, you will find a freedom that no circumstance can take away. Consider how often we surrender our power without realizing it. We hand over our attention to the endless chatter of the world, to the fleeting opinions of others, to the illusions of what we think we must chase. In truth, every distraction that pulls you outward is a subtle erosion of your strength. The moment you give your mind to these forces, you dilute the clarity that comes from attending to your own inner life. Yet when you choose to focus inward, when you turn your gaze toward understanding your own desires, fears, and judgments, you reclaim something that cannot be taken from you: the mastery of your own mind. Focusing on yourself requires courage, for it is not always comfortable to look inward. You will encounter thoughts that trouble you, feelings you would rather ignore, habits that reveal your weaknesses. But it is precisely in facing these truths, without evasion, without excuse, that your strength grows. The Stoics believed that virtue is cultivated through this kind of honest confrontation, through patient observation and deliberate correction. Each insight gained, each small recognition of where you are misled or misaligned, is a building block of your resilience. And yet, focusing on yourself is not about isolation, it is about clarity. The more you understand your own mind, the more you understand your relationship to others and to the world. You begin to see that external events, no matter how chaotic or challenging, have power only insofar as you allow them to. They may stir emotion, they may demand attention, but they cannot govern your inner state unless you permit them to. This is the quiet victory of the self-focused life, the ability to navigate the storm with unshakable poise, to act with intention rather than reaction, and to speak with truth rather than echoing what you hear from others. So let each day be an opportunity to practice this inward discipline. Begin with small moments. Observe your thoughts as they arise. Examine the impulses that drive your actions. Question the assumptions that guide your decisions. Each time you do, you are sharpening the instrument of your mind, refining the quality of your awareness. And in doing so, you cultivate a strength that is not loud or boastful, but steady, resilient, and enduring. The power you build within is a force that the world cannot diminish, for it resides in a domain that belongs entirely to you. Remember that true focus is not frantic, it is not hurried or scattered, it is measured, deliberate, patient, like a sculptor who slowly chips away at stone to reveal the form within. You chisel away distractions, habits, and misconceptions to reveal the clarity and strength that have always been latent within you. And, with each careful cut, with each mindful observation, your capacity to live with calm purpose and unwavering resolve grows. Now, imagine the countless forces in the world that pull at you. Voices of doubt, waves of expectation, currents of comparison. These are not just external, they live within you as well. The restless mind that fears failure, the ego that seeks approval, the habits that lure you into comfort and complacency, all of these are subtle enemies of focus. And yet none of them are invincible. None of them hold true power over you unless you surrender to them. The moment you begin to observe yourself with calm attention, to notice without judgment, to trace the origin of your impulses, you begin to reclaim sovereignty over your own life. Focusing on yourself is a deliberate act of liberation. It is the decision to no longer scatter your energy on things that do not serve you, to no longer invest your vitality into matters that are fleeting and hollow. It is to acknowledge that the richness of life is not found in the approval of others, the accumulation of trivial achievements, or the endless chase of status, but in the cultivation of your own character, your own mind, and your own presence. This is not a promise of comfort or ease. It is a commitment to reality, to honesty, and to the arduous path of self-mastery. And what is strength if not the ability to remain composed when the world seeks to unravel you? The more you focus on yourself, the more capable you become of navigating life with clarity, even amidst chaos. Each distraction you resist, each fleeting impulse you observe rather than act upon, each choice you make with deliberate awareness is a quiet victory. Strength grows not in grand gestures, but in these small, steady acts of discipline, repeated day after day, moment by moment. The Stoics taught that it is in our daily habits, in our choices made in solitude and reflection, that true resilience is formed. It is essential to understand that focusing inward does not mean neglecting the world. On the contrary, it allows you to engage more fully with life. When your mind is clear, when your character is strong, your actions become more intentional. You begin to respond rather than react, to act from reason rather than from impulse. People will still speak, circumstances will still challenge you, events will still unfold in unpredictable ways, but the inner fortress you build through focus makes you unshakable, unhurried, and unafraid. So I urge you to observe yourself today. Notice the patterns of your thinking, the triggers of your emotion, the habits that pull you away from purpose. Sit with these observations, not in judgment, but in curiosity and commitment. With each act of attention, each recognition of your inner state, you strengthen the foundation upon which your entire life rests. And in time, as your focus deepens, As your awareness sharpens, you will notice a profound truth. The more you invest in yourself, the more the world ceases to control you, and the stronger, calmer, and freer you become. There is a quiet misconception that focusing on yourself is selfish, that it is an act of withdrawal from the responsibilities and demands of the world. This, however, is a profound misunderstanding. True focus on oneself is not a retreat. It is the cultivation of a mind that can act with clarity, purpose, and unwavering presence. It is the preparation required to meet life in its fullness, to engage with others, not out of fear, obligation, or insecurity, but from a place of strength and discernment. For the individual who has trained their attention inward, the world ceases to hold sway over their peace, and action emerges, naturally from reason and integrity rather than impulse and reaction. To focus inward is to observe yourself with unwavering honesty. It is to confront the illusions you tell yourself, the excuses that soften your edges, and the fears that disguise themselves as necessities. Many avoid this work because it is uncomfortable to face the truth of one's own mind. Yet it is precisely in this discomfort that growth resides. Every fleeting frustration, every moment of doubt, every impulse you dissect and understand becomes a step on the path toward strength. You begin to see the patterns that govern your actions, the invisible chains that bind your energy, and the moments where distraction and indecision have weakened you. Recognizing these patterns is not punishment, it is liberation. The power of focus grows silently, without spectacle. It is not a burst of courage or an act of bravado that defines it, but the persistent, patient attention to the inner life. When you cultivate this presence, you develop a kind of immunity to the chaos that surrounds you. The world will continue to demand, to provoke, to unsettle. Yet when your mind is trained to remain steady, these external forces lose their ability to disturb you. In this calm, a profound freedom arises, the freedom to choose your response, to act in accordance with your values, to maintain composure when others falter, to meet adversity not with panic but with measured thought and deliberate action. It is essential to remember that focusing on yourself does not mean neglecting growth or connection. On the contrary, the clarity gained through inward attention enables deeper understanding of others and more meaningful engagement with the world. When your mind is disciplined, when your actions stem from reason, the quality of your relationships, decisions, and contributions improves exponentially. You are no longer pulled by every passing impulse or opinion. Instead, you operate from a grounded place of wisdom and integrity. This is the strength that Marcus Aurelius spoke of, the strength that comes from knowing oneself fully, from commanding one's attention, and from cultivating the mind as a sanctuary of calm. So let this day be an invitation. Notice where your energy drifts. Observe where your attention is scattered. Bring it back to yourself with patience, not judgment. The act of turning inward is not dramatic, not heralded by applause or recognition. It is quiet, deliberate, and profoundly transformative. Each moment spent in reflection, each careful observation of your thoughts and impulses is a brick laid in the foundation of resilience. And as these bricks accumulate, as the practice deepens, you will find that the world no longer moves you as it once did, and you will begin to inhabit a strength, a calm, and a freedom that is entirely your own. Think for a moment about how much of life is spent in reaction rather than reflection. Every day, countless stimuli, messages, opinions, events, expectations pull at your attention, and too often we surrender to them without thought. We react to what is said, to what is done, to what is demanded of us, forgetting that the only true master of our experience is the mind itself. The moment you begin to focus on yourself, to observe your thoughts before you act, to question your impulses before you give them energy, you reclaim this mastery. You begin to understand that the external world, with all its noise and chaos, cannot dictate the quality of your life. Only your attention, only your deliberate choice of where to place it, shapes your inner reality. Focusing on yourself is not a single act but a continuous practice. It is the constant return of attention to the inner life, the patient examination of motives, desires and fears. The mind, like a garden, requires tending. Left untended, it becomes overrun with weeds, distractions, anxieties and unexamined assumptions that choke growth. But when you attend to it with care, when you nurture understanding and self-discipline, it flourishes. Each insight gained, each thought observed and redirected, strengthens your capacity to act with clarity and intention. This is the slow, quiet work that builds true power. The power to meet life with composure, to navigate difficulty without being undone, to act from reason rather than impulse. And consider this: the more you focus on yourself, the more resilient you become in the face of life's unpredictability. Circumstances will not always be favorable. People will act in ways that confound or irritate you. Events will unfold beyond your control. Yet the person who has cultivated inner focus does not crumble under these pressures. They have developed a mind that observes before it reacts, that weighs before it acts, that holds steadiness when others are swayed. This is not a gift from fortune, it is the reward of deliberate, persistent attention to the self. Each hour spent in reflection, each choice made with awareness, each moment of restraint or insight compounds into a profound strength that the world cannot diminish. It is also crucial to recognize that self-focus is not isolation. It is not withdrawal from life, but preparation for engagement. By understanding your own mind, by observing your own patterns, by nurturing your character, you create the capacity to interact with the world more effectively. You are able to offer your presence, your wisdom, your calm, and your strength in every action, conversation, and decision. You no longer act from fear, habit, or external pressure, but from a place of grounded clarity. Others may not recognize the work you do within, but its effects ripple outward in the quality of your life and the lives you touch. So let each day be an opportunity to return to yourself. Notice where your thoughts wander. Observe where your energy is drained or scattered, gently. Bring your attention back to the cultivation of your mind, your character, and your presence. Understand that this is not a one-time achievement, but a lifelong practice. And in this practice, in this patient, deliberate focus on yourself, you will find that the chaos of life cannot shake you, that the opinions of others cannot sway you, and that the storms of circumstance no longer command your peace. In this space, this discipline, this quiet attention, you discover a power that is enduring, a calm that is unshakable, and a freedom that is entirely your own. There is a profound strength in the realization that the mind is yours alone. While circumstances shift and people change, your attention is a resource that no one can truly take from you unless you allow it. And yet, most of us relinquish it without thought. We hand over our energy to worries about the future, regrets about the past, the judgments of others, or the illusions of what we should be. Every moment spent reacting to these distractions is a moment lost to confusion, to anxiety, to the weakening of inner resolve. But when you turn inward, when you deliberately focus on understanding your own mind, you reclaim these moments and begin to transform them into clarity, calm, and enduring strength. Focusing on yourself requires a particular courage, one that is quieter than heroics, subtler than triumphs in the eyes of others, but infinitely more powerful. It demands patience, for the mind does not change overnight. It demands honesty, for you will encounter your weaknesses, your fears, and the ways you deceive yourself. And it demands persistence, for the habits of distraction and reaction are deeply rooted. Yet, in this courageous practice, you begin to cultivate a resilience that is not temporary or situational, but permanent. You begin to understand that no external event, no opinion, no circumstance can define the quality of your inner life unless you allow it to. And the benefits of this inward focus extend far beyond the self. The more clarity and strength you cultivate within, the more effectively you navigate the world. Relationships, work, challenges, all of life become opportunities to act with intention rather than compulsion, with wisdom rather than instinct. The person who masters their own mind is not driven by fear, envy, or desire, but by reason, principle, and purpose. They can meet conflict without losing composure, make decisions without being swayed by impulse, and act in a way that is consistent with their values rather than dictated by circumstance. This is the quiet power of focus, the ability to stand firm, unshaken, in a world that is often chaotic and unpredictable. Consider the practice of attention as a form of cultivation, like tending a garden. Each thought you notice, each emotion you examine, each habit you reshape is a seed planted. Some seeds will grow quickly, others slowly, but over time, the garden flourishes. Distractions, doubts, and anxieties may try to creep in like weeds, but if you remain vigilant, if you return to the garden each day, tending it with patience and care, the weeds cannot take root. In this cultivated mind there is clarity, in this clarity there is freedom, and in this freedom there is strength that no external circumstance can diminish. Finally, remember that focusing on yourself is not an act of vanity or selfishness. It is the foundation of virtue, wisdom, and genuine effectiveness. The more you attend to your own mind, the more capable you become of contributing meaningfully to the world, of acting with reason, and of living without being pulled by every fleeting distraction. Every effort you make to observe, understand, and strengthen yourself compounds over time, building a reservoir of calm, insight, and resilience. And in this reservoir, you discover the profound truth Marcus Aurelius taught. The mastery of the self is the greatest power a human being can attain, for it is unshakable, enduring, and entirely yours. It is worth reflecting on how often we mistake motion for progress. We fill our days with activity, with busyness, with constant effort to meet expectations and demands. Yet, in this ceaseless motion we may lose ourselves, scattering our attention in countless directions, never pausing to understand what truly matters or who we truly are. Focusing on yourself is the antidote to this wandering. It is the deliberate act of pausing, of turning inward, of examining the machinery of your own mind. It is in this pause, in this patient attention, that true growth is nurtured, for the mind that is unobserved drifts. The mind that is observed begins to anchor itself in clarity and purpose. When you focus on yourself, you begin to recognize the illusions that have governed your choices. You notice how often your actions are driven by fear, by the desire for approval, or by the compulsion to imitate others. These forces are subtle, yet they quietly erode your energy and diminish your strength. The act of inward observation exposes these patterns, allowing you to redirect your attention toward what is essential, toward what truly cultivates your character and your resilience. Each time you do this, you exercise a form of strength that cannot be measured by external success or recognition. It is the strength of the mind, the fortitude of presence, the clarity that allows you to meet life with equanimity rather than confusion. And consider how this focus transforms your relationship with challenges. Life is unpredictable, and events often unfold in ways we cannot control. But the person who has trained their attention inward is not tossed about by circumstance. They see each challenge clearly, weigh it carefully, and respond from a place of reason rather than reaction. The storms of life may be fierce, yet the mind that is disciplined in focus remains steady, its center unshaken. This is not an abstract ideal. It is a practical, lived reality. Strength does not come from avoiding difficulty, but from meeting it with presence, understanding, and self-command. The practice of self-focus is cumulative. Like the careful layering of stone in the construction of a fortress, each act of attention, each moment of observation, each choice made with awareness builds a structure that supports you in every domain of life. You will notice over time that the same distractions that once scattered your energy no longer have the same power. You will notice that fleeting anxieties and reactive impulses fade more quickly. You will notice an inner calm emerging, a sense of sovereignty over your own mind that transforms how you think, act, and relate to the world. And remember, this work is not accomplished in haste. The mind is cultivated slowly, like a tree growing through seasons of sun, wind, and rain. Patience is required. Persistence is required. Attention must be returned again and again, even when it wanders, even when it tires. The Stoic path is not one of sudden enlightenment, but of steady refinement. Every observation of your thoughts, every acknowledgement of your emotions, every conscious choice to act in accordance with reason is a step toward a life of mastery and freedom. Consider the immense power that comes from directing your energy inward, from giving your attention to the cultivation of your own mind rather than scattering it across endless distractions. So often, we measure success by what we achieve externally, by the recognition we receive, by the marks we leave on the world around us. Yet, these are fleeting and outside our control. True strength, the kind that endures through trials and turbulence, is forged not in external pursuits, but in the patient tending of your inner life. When you focus on yourself, when you carefully observe your thoughts and choose which to nurture and which to discard, you lay the foundation for a life of clarity, calm, and unshakable resilience. It is natural to resist this inward focus at first. The mind seeks comfort in distraction, in the endless chatter of the outside world, in the pursuit of trivial pleasures that mask deeper dissatisfaction. To turn inward requires courage, the courage to face your own fears, your own insecurities, your own patterns of self-deception. But in that courage lies profound reward. Each moment spent observing yourself, each insight gained into your impulses, each correction made in thought or action strengthens you. You begin to see the illusions that govern your choices and to act with purpose rather than compulsion. And the strength gained from focus is not merely internal. It shapes how you interact with the world. The more aware you become of your own mind, the more clarity you bring to your relationships, your work, and your decisions. You no longer respond blindly to the whims of circumstance or the expectations of others. You act with deliberate intent, guided by principle rather than fear or habit. This is the quiet mastery of life, the sort of power Marcus Aurelius spoke of, the ability to navigate the unpredictable currents of existence without being tossed by them, to remain steady and composed while the world shifts around you. Focusing on yourself also teaches patience. The mind, like a garden, grows gradually. Some insights come quickly, others take time to bear fruit. Some habits are difficult to change, some impulses stubbornly persistent. But if you return to yourself consistently with care and attention, the transformation is inevitable. The more you cultivate awareness, the more clarity emerges. The more clarity emerges, the less vulnerable you become to fear, distraction, or external chaos. The quiet strength you develop is cumulative, layering over time, until it becomes a part of you that cannot be undone by circumstance. Remember that this inward journey is not solitary in its effect. By strengthening your mind, you become better able to contribute meaningfully to the world, to act with wisdom and reason, and to engage with life without being led astray by impulsive thought or fleeting emotion. The disciplined mind is a clear lens, through which you perceive reality. It sees what is necessary and true, what is fleeting and illusory. And in this perception, in this clarity, you are free to act with intention, free to remain calm when others panic, free to meet every challenge with steady composure. Think deeply about how often we allow our minds to wander, to chase illusions, to grasp at things that are neither lasting nor essential. Much of life is spent reacting to events, to opinions, to desires that arise unbidden, without pause, without consideration. Yet the person who learns to focus inward discovers a profound difference. They are no longer driven by the fleeting and the superficial, but by reason, clarity, and self-awareness. Every thought is observed, every impulse weighed, every decision guided by careful attention. In this way, the mind becomes a sanctuary, a space untouched by chaos, a center of strength that no external disturbance can penetrate. Focusing on yourself is an act of liberation. It is the conscious decision to reclaim the energy that would otherwise be scattered, the attention that would otherwise be diluted, the calm that would otherwise be lost. In observing yourself, in examining your own fears, desires, and habitual reactions, you gain mastery over the unseen forces that so often dictate the quality of life. Each time you notice a thought, without following it blindly, each time you pause. Before reacting, each time you redirect your energy toward what is virtuous and meaningful, you are exercising a strength that is invisible but unbreakable. And yet, this practice is not easy. The mind resists scrutiny, comfort tempts distraction. The opinions of others, the allure of fleeting pleasures, the pull of habit, all conspire to draw your attention outward. It is here, in these moments of resistance, that the cultivation of focus becomes most crucial. By returning to yourself, by patiently observing and correcting your mind, you are building a resilience that cannot be shaken. You are training your attention to serve you, rather than serve the chaos of the world. Over time, this discipline transforms you. You will notice that the same circumstances that once provoked anxiety or frustration now pass without disturbance. You act from calm clarity rather than from reactive impulse. This inner focus also teaches perspective. You begin to recognize what is essential and what is not. You see that most fears, most desires, most judgments are ephemeral, passing clouds that demand attention only if you grant it. The more you anchor yourself in awareness, the less the external world controls your peace, and the more freedom you gain. The more you understand your own mind, the more naturally your actions align with reason, integrity, and purpose. And it is in this alignment that true strength reveals itself, not the strength of muscles or wealth or status, but the quiet, enduring power of a disciplined and attentive mind. So embrace the practice of returning to yourself. Treat each day, each moment, as an opportunity to observe, reflect, and cultivate clarity. Understand that the mind is a garden, that patience and persistence are required, and that every effort, no matter how small, compounds over time. As you strengthen your attention, as you cultivate insight, as you deepen your awareness, you will find yourself becoming calmer, wiser, and more resilient. And in this process, you discover the truth Marcus Aurelius lived by: the mastery of the self is the greatest strength one can attain, and it is available to any who choose to focus their mind and their attention inward. Let us reflect on the extraordinary potential contained within the simple act of paying attention to yourself. The mind is constantly in motion, pulled in countless directions, and it is easy to mistake this motion for purpose or progress. Yet, without deliberate focus, we are like a ship drifting in stormy waters, tossed by winds we cannot control. Focusing on yourself is the act of taking the helm, of steering with awareness, of charting a course guided by reason rather than impulse. It is in this deliberate steering that your power is found, for the mind that observes itself cultivates clarity, composure, and enduring strength. Turning inward also reveals the patterns that have long shaped your life without your conscious recognition. Every thought, every habit, every reaction has been forming quietly, often outside of your awareness. And yet, with attention, these patterns become visible. You see where fear has guided you, where desire has distracted you, where habit has kept you from acting with reason. This revelation is not meant to condemn you, but to illuminate the areas where growth is possible. Each insight gained is an opportunity to act with intention, to refine your character, and to align your actions with what is virtuous, meaningful, and true. The process of self-focus is gradual, patient, and unhurried. Strength does not arrive suddenly, nor is it declared by external validation. It emerges quietly in the moments when you resist distraction, when you examine your thoughts, when you return your attention to what is essential. Each act of reflection, each choice made with awareness, each impulse observed without surrender, builds a foundation that cannot be shaken by fortune, misfortune, praise, or criticism. The mind becomes a fortress, not because it is isolated from the world, but because it has learned to meet the world with calm discernment. Moreover, focusing on yourself reshapes your understanding of external events. Life will always present challenges, unexpected turns, and uncertainties. The world is indifferent, and people act according to their own motives, often conflicting with ours. Yet, the person who has disciplined their mind sees these events for what they truly are, neutral occurrences, neither inherently good nor bad, whose impact is determined not by their presence, but by the way the mind receives them. By cultivating inner focus, you create the capacity to respond with reason rather than reaction, to maintain composure rather than being swept into chaos, and to act with clarity rather than confusion. Finally, remember that this inward practice is an investment in the quality of your life, not an escape from it. By understanding yourself, by mastering your thoughts, and by directing your attention wisely, you are not retreating from the world, but preparing to engage with it fully. The mind that has been trained in focus, patience, and reflection becomes a source of power, freedom, and serenity. It acts decisively, speaks wisely, and navigates life with grace. In this ongoing cultivation, you discover a timeless truth. The strength you seek does not lie in circumstances or external validation, but in the careful, deliberate mastery of yourself. There is a subtle power in simply observing the flow of your own thoughts. Many live as if their mind belongs to the world, scattering attention to every passing notion, reacting to each interruption, and seeking fulfillment in places that offer only temporary distraction. Yet when you pause and attend to the workings of your own mind, a quiet revolution begins. You begin to notice the impulses that dictate your actions, the desires that mislead you, and the fears that quietly shape your choices. This awareness is not immediate mastery, but it is the first step toward it, a recognition that your attention is the most valuable asset you possess, and it must be directed with care. Focusing on yourself also teaches patience with your own growth. You will find areas of weakness, tendencies to be swayed, and habits that undermine your clarity. The practice is not to punish yourself for these discoveries, but to witness them with impartiality and use them as points of instruction. In doing so, you cultivate a mind that does not react impulsively to discomfort, frustration, or doubt, but responds deliberately. Each small moment of self-observation compounds over time, creating a sturdiness in thought and character that no external circumstance can erode. The world outside is unpredictable, and events often unfold in ways that challenge your expectations. People act with motives you may not understand. Situations develop with unforeseen complexity, and outcomes rarely align perfectly with your desires. Yet when you have practiced attention to yourself, you find a certain independence from these disruptions. You are no longer swept along by every emotional current or every external influence. Instead, you remain anchored within, observing the world without being consumed by it, choosing responses that reflect reason, principle, and integrity rather than reaction or impulse. Another dimension of focusing on yourself is the clarity it brings to your own purpose. In the absence of constant inward attention, desires, fears, and habits accumulate unnoticed, shaping decisions without awareness. By turning inward, by examining what truly matters to you, you begin to recognize priorities that are grounded in reality rather than in comparison, imitation, or societal expectation. The mind becomes a compass, and each decision you make aligns with the direction of your own reasoned judgment. This internal alignment is a form of strength far superior to the fleeting approval of others. It is self-sustaining, unshakable, and deeply liberating. Finally, focusing on yourself fosters a kind of quiet courage. Life presents challenges, setbacks, and moments that test endurance, and most people meet these with panic, frustration, or avoidance. But the person who has trained their mind inwardly faces difficulty with calm observation, weighing options clearly, and acting with deliberation. The courage that emerges is not loud or conspicuous, it is steady, enduring, and practical. It is the courage of a mind that knows itself, that has witnessed its own limitations and strengths, and that can navigate the world with intention rather than compulsion. In this space you discover that the mind, when cultivated with care and attention, is the most formidable and reliable ally you will ever have. There is a rare freedom in learning to sit with yourself, undisturbed by the constant demands of life. Most people are pulled outward, constantly reacting to events, opinions, and circumstances that they cannot control. They fill their days with noise, distraction, and pursuit of things that fade almost as soon as they are acquired. But when you turn your gaze inward, when you dedicate time to understanding your own mind, a different kind of life emerges, one where your attention is no longer scattered, where your energy is preserved, and where your decisions stem from clarity rather than impulse. This is not a passive state, it is the active cultivation of presence, a deliberate construction of your inner world. Focusing on yourself also illuminates the roots of your own suffering. Many anxieties, regrets, and frustrations arise not from what has happened, but from the way the mind interprets them. By observing your own thought patterns, you begin to recognize how past experiences, unexamined beliefs, and unconscious expectations shape your emotions and actions. This recognition is neither judgment nor blame, it is understanding. And understanding leads to freedom. When you see clearly the causes of your restlessness, you gain the ability to respond differently, to redirect your energy, and to choose thoughts and actions that serve your well-being and purpose rather than undermine them. Another subtle but profound effect of focusing on yourself is the clarity it brings to your priorities. Life offers countless paths, endless opportunities, and innumerable distractions. The untrained mind is pulled in all directions, chasing what seems urgent, what seems desirable, what seems necessary according to others. The mind that has been trained in observation and self-awareness, however, begins to discern what truly matters. It recognizes the transient from the enduring, the superficial from the essential, and the ephemeral from the eternal. Decisions then flow with greater precision, actions are measured, and energy is invested wisely. In this way, self-focus is not withdrawal, it is preparation, it is alignment, it is the sharpening of the tools required to live a meaningful life. And consider how this inward attention strengthens resilience. Life will inevitably present challenges, and circumstances will often be unpredictable. Yet the person who has disciplined their mind through self-observation and reflection experiences these challenges differently. They are not powerless or helpless. They understand that external events can influence their situation, but they cannot dictate their inner state. This perspective brings calm, focus, and a remarkable ability to act from reason. Where others panic, they remain steady. Where others are swayed, they remain rooted. Their mind, cultivated in awareness, becomes a source of stability that no storm can destroy. Finally, embracing the inward path nurtures a quiet wisdom. It is not wisdom of cleverness or of show. It is the wisdom of knowing what is within your control and what is not, of seeing the mind clearly, of responding to life with patience and discernment. The strength you build through focus is invisible to most, but it is profound and lasting. Each day of attention, each moment of reflection, each choice guided by awareness adds to a foundation that cannot be shaken. The mind, once trained in this way, becomes a refuge, a source of clarity and compass through the uncertainties of life. In this practice, you begin to understand a truth Marcus Aurelius lived by: the mastery of oneself is the greatest and most reliable power a human can possess. There is an extraordinary clarity that comes when you begin to witness your own mind without interference. Most people live their lives carried away by thought after thought, reaction after reaction, rarely pausing to examine the source of their impulses or the nature of their desires. Yet when you take the time to focus inward, to observe your own patterns without judgment, a remarkable transformation begins. You start to recognize where fear has subtly influenced your decisions, where distraction has quietly eroded your energy, and where habitual reactions have dictated your behavior. This recognition is not meant to create guilt or shame. It is a tool, a lantern held in the darkness to reveal the paths that lead to strength and clarity. Focusing on yourself requires patience, for the mind is not tamed quickly. Thoughts arise without invitation, emotions surge without warning, and impulses tempt you toward inaction, indulgence, or reaction. Yet the act of noticing, of observing without immediately following, gradually builds a resilience that cannot be taken by circumstance. You develop the ability to step back, to breathe, to assess, and then to act with deliberate reason rather than impulsive instinct. Each moment you practice this attention, each insight you gain about your own tendencies, each small decision made with awareness, strengthens a mind capable of enduring life's uncertainties with composure. The cultivation of focus also brings perspective. Life will constantly offer distractions, temptations, and urgencies. Many will treat the accumulation of wealth, recognition, or fleeting pleasure as the measure of success, and the untrained mind will chase these illusions endlessly. But when you focus inward, you begin to understand what is essential. You recognize the impermanent nature of external validation, the transient allure of material gain, and the limited value of approval from others. Your energy is preserved, your choices become intentional, and you act in alignment with reason and your own highest principles, rather than the expectations of the world. This inward discipline strengthens your capacity to act effectively in the external world. A person who has cultivated their mind in attention, reflection, and self-understanding meets challenges with calm deliberation. They respond rather than react, they act with wisdom rather than habit, and they maintain presence when others are scattered or anxious. Strength, in this sense, is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, measured, and enduring. It resides not in muscle, wealth, or status, but in the mind that has been trained to observe, reflect, and act with clarity. Finally, understand that focusing on yourself is a lifelong commitment. It is not achieved in a day or through a single act. Each moment of observation, each pause to reflect on thought or impulse, each conscious choice builds upon the last. Over time, these small, deliberate acts accumulate, forming an inner foundation that supports every aspect of life. The mind becomes a place of refuge, clarity, and strength. And in cultivating this attention, you step into a truth Marcus Aurelius embraced: the mastery of oneself is the most profound source of power, freedom, and serenity that a human being can attain. Think for a moment about the nature of attention itself. Our minds are constantly pulled outward, caught in currents of distraction, pulled by desires, obligations, and endless stimuli. Most people drift in this torrent, reacting to every ripple as if it were a wave, never pausing to observe the source of their own thoughts or the direction of their own energy. But when you choose to focus inward, when you deliberately place your attention on understanding your own mind, a different kind of life unfolds. You begin to perceive the patterns that guide your decisions, the impulses that shape your actions, and the beliefs that subtly define your emotions. Awareness becomes a tool, a shield, and a guide. Focusing on yourself also reveals the illusions you have lived under. Many of our Frustrations arise not from reality itself, but from our interpretations, our attachments, and our misunderstandings. By observing your thoughts, you discover where desire has misled you, where expectation has created suffering, and where fear has quietly dictated your choices. This understanding is not judgment, it is illumination. Each insight gained strengthens your capacity to act intentionally, to direct your energy wisely, and to live in accordance with your own principles rather than the whims of the world. The practice of inward attention is patient and gradual. Strength does not come suddenly, nor is it dependent on recognition or outward achievement. It emerges quietly, in the moments when you resist distraction, when you notice a thought without being consumed by it, when you redirect energy toward what truly matters. Each of these moments, repeated consistently, forms the foundation of resilience. The mind trained in this way is unshakable, composed, and capable of meeting challenges with clarity rather than fear. Another benefit of focusing on yourself is the discernment it brings. Life is full of competing demands, fleeting pleasures, and urgent distractions. Without clarity, it is easy to be swept along by these currents, losing sight of what is truly important. But a mind trained in self-awareness begins to distinguish between what is essential and what is superficial, between the enduring and the transient. Decisions become precise, energy is invested wisely, and your actions align with reason and virtue rather than impulse and desire. This is the quiet power of focus, the ability to navigate life effectively while remaining grounded in your own values. Finally, the inward journey cultivates a steady courage. The world will test you, circumstances will challenge you, and people will act in ways beyond your control. Yet the person who has learned to focus on themselves meets these trials with calm observation and deliberate response. Strength emerges not from force, but from self-mastery, the ability to act with clarity, to respond with reason, and to remain composed when the world shifts around you. In this deliberate practice, you come to understand a truth that Marcus Aurelius exemplified. True power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself, in tending your mind, and in cultivating a clarity and freedom that no circumstance can take away. Consider the quiet power in choosing where to place your attention. Many allow the mind to drift, pulled in all directions by fleeting thoughts, external pressures, and the relentless noise of the world. Each moment spent reacting to these forces is energy lost, strength diluted, and clarity diminished. Yet when you deliberately focus on yourself, you reclaim this precious resource. You begin to notice the thoughts that arise unbidden, the impulses that seek immediate satisfaction, and the emotions that attempt to dictate your behavior. Observing them with patience and care does not weaken you, it strengthens you. Each act of attention is a deliberate exercise in self-mastery, building resilience and fortitude over time. Focusing inward also reveals the subtle patterns that have quietly governed your life. Perhaps there are recurring fears that push you to avoid action, desires that pull you from what is meaningful, or habits that drain your energy without your awareness. By turning your attention inward, these patterns no longer operate in the shadows. They are illuminated, observed, and understood. And understanding is the first step toward freedom. With each recognition you gain the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react unconsciously, to choose your actions rather than be led by impulse, and to shape your life according to reason rather than circumstance. The cultivation of inner focus is not swift or dramatic. It is gradual, steady, and often invisible to the outside world. Strength grows in the silent moments when you resist distraction, when you reflect on your thoughts, when you pause before acting. Each deliberate choice compounds over time, creating a mind capable of remaining calm amid chaos, of acting with intention amid uncertainty, and of holding steady when external events threaten to disrupt. This is the quiet fortitude that Marcus Aurelius valued, the strength not flaunted but lived, consistent and enduring. Inward attention also clarifies your priorities. Life constantly offers opportunities, obligations, and distractions, many of which promise satisfaction but deliver little lasting value. When the mind is trained in focus, you begin to discern what truly matters. You recognize which actions are aligned with virtue, which choices serve growth, and which pursuits are fleeting and unnecessary. This discernment allows energy to be invested with wisdom, decisions to be made with precision, and life to be lived with purpose. What once seemed urgent is now seen in proper perspective, and what once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. Take a moment to reflect on the power of your own mind. The external world, with all its noise, chaos, and uncertainty, has little sway over you unless you allow it. Yet most people surrender their attention constantly, letting worries, distractions, and fleeting desires guide their actions. To focus on yourself is to reclaim this most valuable resource, your awareness. By observing your thoughts, examining your impulses, and discerning the truth of your desires, you create a space of clarity within, a space that is untouched by the turbulence of circumstance. In this space, decisions arise naturally, actions are deliberate, and strength becomes an inherent quality rather than a borrowed illusion. Focusing inward is also an act of courage. It requires looking closely at yourself, confronting fears that have been ignored, and acknowledging weaknesses that are uncomfortable to face. This is not an easy task. The mind resists scrutiny. Comfort tempts distraction. Habit whispers familiar lies. Yet, in facing these truths, you cultivate resilience. Each observation, each moment of honest reflection, each choice made with awareness strengthens your ability to remain composed in the face of difficulty. Over time, you build an inner fortress, a mind that is steady, reasoned, and unshakable regardless of the storms outside. The process reveals the illusions that have subtly guided your life. Many anxieties arise not from reality but from the stories we tell ourselves about what should be, what others think, and what is required of us. By focusing on yourself, you begin to disentangle these stories from truth. You start to see what is essential, what is within your control, and what is simply distraction. This clarity transforms how you act, speak, and even think, as your energy is no longer squandered on what is fleeting or unimportant, but directed toward what truly matters. In addition, cultivating inward focus nurtures patience and discipline. Life is rarely simple, and the mind is not easily trained. Thoughts arise unbidden, emotions surge, and the pull of habit is persistent. Yet the steady practice of observing and redirecting attention builds lasting capacity. Each time you pause before acting, each time you notice a thought without being consumed by it, each time you choose to engage with life deliberately, you strengthen not only your mind but your character. Strength in this form is subtle, invisible to most, but it endures where outward achievements fade. Finally, focusing on yourself is the foundation for a life of meaningful action. The more disciplined your mind becomes, the more capable you are of engaging with the world wisely and effectively. You respond to challenges with reason rather than panic, act with intention rather than reaction, and maintain composure where others falter. In this practice you come to understand a truth Marcus Aurelius lived by. The greatest power a person can possess is mastery over their own mind. In this mastery you find freedom, resilience, and a strength that no circumstance can take from you. There is a remarkable kind of clarity that emerges when you deliberately turn your attention inward. Most people live in reaction, pulled by the chaos of daily life, distracted by constant noise, and influenced by the expectations of others. They surrender their attention to every passing thought, every external demand, every fleeting desire. Yet the person who chooses to focus on themselves discovers a different reality. The mind can be steady, purposeful, and strong. Each thought becomes an object of observation, each impulse a moment for reflection, and each decision an opportunity to act from reason rather than habit. In this practice, the mind transforms from a passive vessel into an active instrument of wisdom and strength. Focusing inward reveals the subtle ways in which our own habits and beliefs shape our lives. Patterns that once seemed invisible now become clear. The fear that drives avoidance, the desire that fuels distraction, the old assumptions that limit growth. Observation is not judgment, it is illumination. With awareness, you gain the ability to choose your response rather than be swept along by reaction. Each moment of reflection builds a resilience that becomes part of your character, a quiet fortitude that strengthens you in ways that external achievement never can. Turning attention inward also brings a profound sense of perspective. The challenges of life, the unpredictability of circumstance, and the actions of others can no longer unsettle you to the same degree. You see events as they are, without unnecessary distortion, and recognize what is within your control and what is not. The mind that is trained in focus remains anchored, responding to life with clarity and reason rather than confusion and fear. This discipline allows you to act effectively, speak wisely, and carry yourself with calm assurance, regardless of the chaos surrounding you. The practice is gradual, requiring patience, persistence, and humility. Strength does not appear overnight, nor is it rewarded by immediate recognition. It grows quietly, in the repeated acts of noticing, observing, and redirecting your attention. Each choice to act deliberately, each moment of self-reflection, compounds over time, creating a mind that is resilient, clear, and composed. What once would have unsettled you now passes without disturbance. What once would have provoked fear now invites thoughtful response. In this way, the cultivation of attention builds a foundation that is unshakable, enduring, and wholly your own. Finally, focusing on yourself is the gateway to freedom. By mastering your thoughts, regulating your impulses, and aligning your actions with reason, you create a space of inner sovereignty. You are no longer captive to distraction, opinion, or circumstance. You act with intention, move with purpose, and engage with life from a position of calm authority. This is the power Marcus Aurelius extolled, the mastery of oneself. In this mastery you find not only strength, but freedom, resilience, and a deep, enduring serenity that cannot be taken from you by the world. There is a quiet but formidable power in the act of attending to your own mind. Most people live in a state of distraction, their attention fragmented by endless demands, fleeting desires, and the unrelenting noise of the world. They move from task to task, thought to thought, rarely pausing to examine the source of their impulses or the direction of their energy. Yet, when you turn inward, when you intentionally focus on yourself, a transformation occurs. You begin to see the workings of your own mind with clarity, to observe the habits that have shaped your life, and to discern the impulses that have subtly influenced your actions. Awareness becomes a tool of liberation, a path to strength, and a source of enduring resilience. Focusing on yourself is not a momentary effort, but a sustained practice. Each day presents an opportunity to notice where your attention has strayed, to examine your motivations, and to refine your actions. Perhaps you discover that anxiety has guided choices more than reason, or that desire has pulled energy away from what truly matters. By observing these patterns without judgment, you gain the capacity to respond differently. Each act of self-reflection strengthens the mind, fortifies the character, and builds the resilience that allows you to meet life's unpredictability with composure. The inward journey also provides perspective on the external world. Life is unpredictable, and people act in ways beyond your control. Challenges arise without warning, and events unfold in ways that test patience and understanding. Yet the person who has cultivated focus within does not react impulsively. They see clearly what is within their control and what is not. Their actions are guided by reason, their thoughts aligned with principle, and their responses measured rather than hurried. In this state, life's disturbances no longer dictate the quality of the mind. They are merely events to be met with calm judgment and purposeful action. Patience is essential in this practice. The mind is not easily trained. Habits of distraction and reaction are deeply ingrained. Yet, with consistent observation, each moment of self-awareness compounds. The simple acts of noticing a thought, pausing before reacting, or choosing deliberately over instinctual response gradually form a mind capable of clarity, composure, and wisdom. Strength grows quietly, imperceptibly, and steadily until it becomes an enduring foundation upon which all actions, decisions, and relationships are supported. Finally, focusing on yourself is the foundation of true freedom. By mastering your mind, by observing and directing your thoughts, and by aligning your actions with reason, you are no longer captive to external circumstance, fleeting emotion, or the judgments of others. You move through the world with intention, act with integrity, and maintain calm authority over your own life. This is the enduring truth Marcus Aurelius imparted, that the greatest power a human being can possess is mastery over oneself, and within that mastery lies resilience, clarity, and the profound freedom of a mind unshaken by the external world. There is a profound strength in the discipline of returning your attention to yourself. Most people are pulled outward, chasing desires, reacting to circumstance, and responding to the constant noise of the world. Their minds are scattered, their energy depleted, and their clarity diminished. Yet the person who deliberately focuses inward discovers a different life entirely. Each thought becomes visible, each impulse noticeable, each choice deliberate. In this practice, the mind transforms from a passive vessel, tossed by the currents of circumstance, into a steadfast instrument of reason, purpose, and resilience. Focusing on yourself also reveals the forces that subtly govern your behavior, patterns of fear, habit, and desire that have long shaped your decisions now become clear. You see the ways in which avoidance has limited your growth, how distraction has eroded your energy, and how unexamined impulses have led you astray. This awareness is not meant to induce shame, but to illuminate a path towards self-mastery. With understanding comes the capacity to choose differently, to act intentionally, and to align your actions with reason and principle rather than impulse or external pressure. The cultivation of attention is a gradual process, requiring patience and persistence. The mind is not tamed quickly, nor does strength appear suddenly. It emerges through repeated acts of observation, reflection, and conscious choice. Each moment you notice a thought without following it blindly, each decision made with deliberate intent, builds a quiet fortitude within. Over time, the mind becomes a refuge, a place of calm, composure, and clarity that remains unshaken by the uncertainties of the world. Turning inward also grants perspective on the true nature of what you value. Life presents countless distractions, fleeting pleasures, and urgent demands. The untrained mind chases them without discrimination, often losing sight of what is essential. But the disciplined mind sees clearly. It discerns what is lasting from what is temporary, what serves growth from what merely entertains, what is aligned with virtue from what merely appeases desire. Energy is directed wisely, decisions are made with precision, and life is lived in accordance with reason and principle. Finally, focusing on yourself nurtures a form of courage that is quiet yet enduring. Life will challenge you, often in ways you cannot predict, and people will act in ways beyond your control. Yet the person who has cultivated attention and self-awareness meets these challenges with calm observation, measured response, and steady resolve. Strength is not in avoidance, nor in outward show, but in mastery of the mind. The person who knows themselves, who has trained their thoughts, and who acts with awareness possesses a power that cannot be taken by circumstance. In this, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that true mastery, true freedom, and enduring resilience begin with the careful cultivation of oneself. discipline in observing your own mind that most people never learn. From the moment we awaken, our attention is scattered by responsibilities, desires, and the endless stream of information that surrounds us. Each distraction pulls energy and clarity away, leaving the mind fatigued and reactive. Yet when you intentionally focus inward, when you dedicate time to understanding your own thoughts, a transformation begins. You begin to see the subtle influences that have shaped your choices, the impulses that have driven your actions, and the fears that have quietly limited your potential. Awareness is a form of power, and, by practicing it consistently, you cultivate a strength that cannot be taken from you by circumstance or opinion. Focusing on yourself also uncovers the illusions that govern much of human behavior. Many anxieties, frustrations, and regrets arise not from reality itself, but from the interpretations we place upon it. By observing your thoughts carefully, you notice the ways in which expectation, comparison, and attachment shape your experience. This is not to dwell on weakness, but to illuminate the path toward mastery. Each insight into your mind becomes a tool for freedom, a chance to act with intention rather than compulsion, and an opportunity to align your energy with what is truly meaningful. The practice of inward focus builds patience and resilience. Strength is not sudden, it develops gradually, like the slow accumulation of layers that form a mountain. Each deliberate act of observation, each moment spent reflecting rather than reacting, compounds over time. The mind grows steadier, less susceptible to external disturbance, and increasingly capable of responding with reason rather than emotion. In this way, even the most chaotic circumstances are met with calm, clarity, and the quiet assurance that comes from knowing your own mind is under your guidance. Inward focus also sharpens judgment. Life presents countless paths, distractions, and fleeting pleasures, yet the disciplined mind discerns what is truly valuable. What is fleeting and irrelevant passes unnoticed, while the essential is observed, nurtured, and acted upon. This clarity allows energy to be directed purposefully, choices to be made wisely, and life to be lived with intentionality. It is a strength that remains invisible to most, yet it forms the foundation for every meaningful action and every wise decision. Finally, focusing on yourself cultivates a profound inner courage. External events will always be unpredictable, and people will act beyond your control. But the mind trained in observation and self-mastery meets adversity with calm composure. Strength emerges not from avoidance or control of the world, but from mastery of the self. The person who knows their thoughts, observes their impulses, and acts with deliberate attention possesses a resilience and freedom that no circumstance can take away. In this, the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius is evident. True power resides not in the world, but within the careful, disciplined cultivation of one's own mind. As we reach the culmination of this reflection, consider the profound simplicity of returning continually to yourself. Life will never cease to bring challenges, distractions, and uncertainty. People will act unpredictably, circumstances will change without warning, and the world will often appear chaotic. Yet in all of this, there is one constant you can always rely upon: the mastery of your own mind. To focus on yourself is to claim this unshakable foundation. It is to recognize that true strength is not measured by what you possess, by the praise of others, or by fleeting achievements, but by the clarity, calm, and resilience you cultivate within. The inward path is not easy. It demands courage to face fears that have been hidden, honesty to observe weaknesses without judgment, and patience to nurture habits of awareness over time. But in this practice, you discover a freedom that is unavailable to those who scatter their attention outward. You find a calmness in the midst of turmoil, a precision in thought when chaos abounds, and a quiet confidence that allows you to act with wisdom rather than impulse. Each moment spent returning to yourself, each reflection upon thought and action, compounds into an inner strength that cannot be stolen, shaken, or diminished, and consider the ripple effect of this inner mastery. By tending to your mind, you do not withdraw from the world, you engage with it more fully, you speak with clarity, act with intention, and navigate challenges with calm authority. Your presence, measured and deliberate, becomes a force of stability, reason, and you influence not by force or command, but by example, by embodying the power of a mind that has been trained to focus, to observe, and to act in harmony with virtue and reason. Finally, remember that this journey is ongoing. There is no ultimate endpoint, no final achievement of perfection. The strength you build grows each day in each choice, each observation, each act of deliberate attention. And in this continuous cultivation, you align yourself with the timeless wisdom Marcus Aurelius embodied. The true measure of life is mastery over oneself, the careful stewardship of thought and action, and the unwavering cultivation of clarity, courage, and resilience. So return to yourself often, observe without distraction, act with reason, and in doing so, discover a power that is steady, enduring, and entirely your own. A power that no circumstance, no opinion, no external event can ever take away. Here lies the essence of strength, freedom, and serenity. Here lies the mastery that will guide you through all of life's uncertainties, now and always.